G'day boys. G'day boys. How's it going? Can everyone hear me? Can anyone hear me? Hi. Hi, 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 hi. Oh, I can hear it because I can hear it coming out my phone where I had it open for testing if it's working. Hi. Are we voting based on realism or just film best film? I'll leave it open-ended up to your choice. He's referring to the poll in the chat as well. Hi, 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 hi. Hear you perfectly, says Okemo Sniper. Oh, you're going to like this bloody episode, mate, based on your name. Hasarbol, Poland. Hello. Ah, yeah, like winged hussars. Nice, nice, nice. Hello, Zucchini. Yup, hi. FC3D, welcome back to the members. Hi, everyone. Starfleet Ensign. Nice, nice. We got about 15 in chat. That's a nice number. So I think we should just send it and roll straight into it. If you're jumping in for the first time, welcome to the debrief, where we bloody yarn about the previous video and pretty much, well, yap, and sort of collab on what was good, what was controversial, if anything, and talk a bit about some stuff that maybe wasn't elaborated on, and then also what's coming up next. And as is tradition, I got ahead of myself and cheated the slide, which you should be now seeing a slide that says purpose, and a few dot points there or bullet points on what the hell it is we're doing here. As always, I'm not sure disclaimer is the word, caveat, I suppose, that I'm try and make these engaging for the dudes who are here live in the stream, in the chat. Thank you for being here and participating. But then also for those of you who are watching this in hindsight as the VOD, like as the recorded video, right? So with that being said, it's not that dynamic, like not super duper chat interactive. I flick through the slides and then I'll bounce to chat, have a look, answer some questions, or you know, engage with some of the comments or points in chat, and then I'll kind of try and get back into the slideshow. So when you're watching this as a video, it's not just like watching an interactive chat that you want it there for. Get what I mean? So I'm trying to kind of make it equally entertaining for the livers and then the people watching it post. Let's get into it. Let me, on that note, have a quick read of the chat. So fun fact, my old stream name used to be Sniper Bait, lol. Now it's Firestorm. Hi. Max Petterson. Hey man, big fan of your videos. Oh, thanks Max. Appreciate you, mate. Edirk523ProCon. Hells yeah, I was able to catch one live. Welcome, Edirk. Let's get into it. So I kind of gave the my heads up there on what we're doing. I'm going to shut up and just get straight into it. So guys, some of the first comment trends, or actually the biggest trend for this one was the reaction versus anticipation. And this was a pretty remembered, oh sorry, what the hell am I saying, remembered? It was trending, I'll say it as it is. There were a few people who made this point about how the way I expressed reaction time perhaps wasn't fair to Henry, and that it didn't really take into account that he's not doing a raw reaction time, it's more a matter of anticipation. To which I'd say that's a fair critique. I probably could have given Henry a far better reaction time based on some of these, some of the considerations some of these comments raise. And I'll read some of these aloud because this was expressed in a few different ways. To be blunt, some people expressed it a lot better than others. And I'll put up some of these examples I thought that kind of conveyed the point more accurately and, well, eloquently in some senses as well. Okay, so here's some of the comments, chaps. EXZZ Cuter XX, or however I'm meant to pronounce that, emoji face, man. My FaZe Clan friend, I agree with the whole vid except for the reaction time note. It's relevant given the train is not a surprise. Counter-Strike players regularly pull 0-second reactions via pre-firing off a guess, let alone on a train moving at a known speed. So yeah, what he's speaking to here is a theme that, like, if you know something is coming, then the reaction time in and of itself isn't the only unit of measure at play, which is a fair statement of itself. I'd question, maybe not so much can Counter-Strike players pull off a 0-second reaction time, but I'd question, can they do that regularly? And I'd change the word regularly to like repeatably and consistently, because yeah, 0 seconds is superhuman. Anyway, moving on to the next comment in the similar theme. This one comes from Majestic Demon Lord. Drummer and firearms nerd here. I have a quibble. On the reaction times, the 120 millisecond reaction is for new stimuli. It's not taking into account anticipation. Professional drummers can consistently be within 5 milliseconds of the click. Now, I grant he's not a drummer, but it's essentially the same skill in this instance. 5 milliseconds, which is very close to the required 2.7 milliseconds window. Don't get me wrong, I still agree with you that this is impossible, just that with good anticipation, like a professional drummer anticipating the click, it's not 120 milliseconds reaction time. I thank Majestic Demon Lord for his comment, and I also like the example he's putting forward here of drumming. Again, the theme or tone, the theme of the comment is that what I expressed in the video, which was I cited average human reaction times, probably wasn't fair to Henry, noting that it doesn't count for, it's not a blind reaction time, right? And the example I'd give is from when I looked into some of these reaction time tests, and there's a few that, to be frank, I think kind of work or support the way I went about it using the figures I did. But then some of the other ones where if it's changing different visual stimuli. So for example, you have a screen in front of you and it's got red, blue, green, yellow, and then you have red, blue, green, yellow buttons. And if you have to then press yellow when yellow pops up and red when red when red pops up, then that's say very different from just having like only a red button and only a red light on the screen. So if they do it in that sense, then yeah, I think this certainly applies. But some of the other reaction time tests, from what I look into it, it's as in the test that they use to come up with that figure that I cited, which is I think 250 milliseconds, the average reaction time, right? It's like the ruler test. Like they're standing there and they drop the ruler and you catch the ruler, and there's these purpose-made reaction time rules, and they have like these colored zones on them, and where you catch it, that's an indicator of your reaction time. But again, that is weird to me because you're not like, it's not a complete and utter shock and surprise that the ruler drops. You're still anticipating that the ruler is going to drop. So I'm not criticizing these comments in this way. It's just like, is it a splitting hairs argument in that sense? Because if that's how the tests are done, then you're still anticipating the ruler is going to drop and you're acting on it and, sending the impulses from your brain to your fingers to shut very quickly. You get what I'm saying here? It's like when I was thinking about that test or the reaction time test, which I'll fully caveat with, I don't know how they work fully. I didn't look into any academic papers on reaction time tests and this sort of thing. It would seem to me there's still a degree of anticipation worked into these tests. Does that make sense? So I don't think it's fair to say that the reaction time figure is completely removed from the concept of anticipation or being pre-prepared, because you're still anticipating the circumstances of whatever the physical test you're doing is, even if it's testing your reactions. Get what I mean? Did I finish all of Majestic Demon Lord's comment? Don't get me wrong, I still agree with you that it's possible, just that with good anticipation like a professional, we did. The other thing I'd say to this is, while I like Majestic Demon Lord's analogy here of like, and I certainly don't disagree, he's probably very correct that professional drummers can be within 5 milliseconds of a click. And I've done a bit of bloody drumming in my day, I'll have you know. I used to bloody slap around on the kit for a bit of pop punk back in the day. But yeah, my drumming days are mostly behind me. But I have played drums, and I have played drums to a click track. So I get this analogy, I suppose is what I'm saying too. But what I would also add to Majestic Demon Lord's analogy, and where I think it's not quite as accurate, is that what I would say is the big difference here is like a drummer click track is a constant repetitive thing, right? So being able to stay, or I would argue that being able to stay within 5 milliseconds of something that's going tick, 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 staying on a beat, like a repetitive motion, like hitting a snare drum or hitting the hi-hat or whatever. My argument here is that is substantially easier to have these much lower reaction times, like say 5 milliseconds, as he said, than the one-off single event. If you get what I mean? And the example I'd give here again, expanding on Majestic Demon Lord's drummer scenario, is that I disagree that it's the same as going tick, 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 staying on track to a click track. I would say this is more like you're looking into the booth, like the recording booth. You're playing in a studio, set the scene, you're on your drum kit there. Imagine you're in a fancy recording studio and there's glass there. And behind the glass, there's a fella like about to hit like play on a click track, as in the first click you're going to hear. and he's holding up his fingers and he's counting down with his fingers by like dropping them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And on 0, he's going to start the click track, right? And then on that start click track, that's when you've got to try and be exactly on the click, which of course is absurd. That's not how you play to a click track as a drummer. They press play on the click, and in your headphones you can just hear tick 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 tick, and then you start the bloody, what do you call it, the track or whatever it is. Sorry, just let me mute some of this crap popping up on my computer. Versus, you're watching a guy counting down, or you're watching visual stimulus is also, I think, to be considered, the difference between audio and visual stimulus, and then trying to come in exactly on the first beat to a click. And in that example, I would argue that no way are you pulling off 5 milliseconds of accuracy either side of that. No way. So does that make sense? Like the difference between how those two examples work, and how I think that, like, if you take that and the drummer scenario, but then you put it in the conditions of Henry's shot from the Gemini Man, the video I just made that we're talking about, it's more, A, it's visual stimulus. He's not listening to a set of headphones in his ears. And B, you've got one opportunity, and it's the very first click or hit of the drum kit in this example. And I do think that makes a difference, right? Like doing something repetitively over and over again versus having to come in on beat. So while I like Majestic Demon Lord's point, I think I could kind of counter it with that scenario doesn't exactly, it's not fully parallel to what happens to Henry in the bloody movie. A few more comments. I'll get to these as well. Actually, let's read a bit of chat. Who have we got? E. Dirk. Who else here watches Perrin, by the way? Perrin is one of the bloody greats of Australian military YouTubing, if you're not familiar with him. I wish I could watch more Perrin. I don't have bloody much time to watch other YouTube stuff. I'm bloody flat out making this stuff. But Perrin's amazing. He's very, very clever at all his logistic stuff, and you should go check him out. He jumped in some of my bloody live streams very early on. Old Perrin, shout out to him. He even made a dono. Much appreciated. I think Perrin was one of the first people who ever donoed anything in a live stream, or one of the earlier ones anyway. So yeah, shout out to the goat. Hussar Ball Poland says, after watching your video, I've questioned how would different rifles change the probability of hitting stationary target, for example, K98 or M82 Barrett? Yeah, absolutely. It would depend primarily on the velocity and the caliber and the ballistic coefficient of the bullet. Sorry, not the caliber so much, the ballistic coefficient of the bullet. That's what's really going to change a lot of these hit percentages, and the muzzle velocity. There's heaps to it. But yeah, it wouldn't be that. I could do a follow-up, I suppose, and just change around the conditions of the bullet and the weapon, and show you how some of these percentages would change. Particularly, I suppose, look, if you were to just change it from, say, 308 to even 338, which I haven't done in the solver, so I'm, kind of pulling these numbers out of my bum, but it would certainly be much, much higher than 8% just by having a projectile that is critically still going supersonic at that distance. I'd say that would be one of the factors that would vastly increase the hit percentage, is having a bullet that's still going faster than the speed of sound at that point, and is therefore far more stable and far more predictable, which is, I dare say, worked into how the algorithm solves or does some of the simulation. Dinger 300 says, where'd you go? How you doing, Shaggers? Not too shabby, mate. Dinger 300 again. What's been covered in the debrief? We're just going over some comments. Just open these. Lachlan, the ruler drops at a random time, though. If you had a clock counting down to the ruler was going to drop, you'd be faster. That is fair. I suppose it's not like you're not utterly not anticipating it. Like, you're still there, like, locked in, anticipating the ruler is coming. I don't think it's, I think it's different from, say, the other style of, reaction time tests, where it's different inputs. I think those are probably a better test of reaction time than, say, the ruler one. But I don't know. It was a weird example. John Smith says, any chance of a music vid? I don't know. Maybe. FC3D says, we had to do artillery fire on the simulator, moving targets. Had plenty of time to set up and could anticipate where the target should be. It was a nightmare even with an area weapon. Yeah, it's tricksy. Max Peterson, would you ever do an analysis of a fictional air campaign, Independence Day or Top Gun? Independence Day, that's a fun idea. I would like to. The trouble is just animating it. It's heaps hard, and it would be very annoying to try and do the visuals and animating stuff like that. Obviously, just how fast a jet or an aviation thing would zip around on the screen. But yeah, I would be keen if I could figure out the tech challenge. Sorry, moving on. I'll read some more of these comments, chaps. So getting back to the screen here, or back to the presentation. It should be noted also, I'll put it up on the top of the screen there, the time that I cited in the video, as in what Henry's window of the target being on that point of aim is, or that reference point, trigger point, is 0.0027692 seconds, or 2.8 milliseconds, right? So that's what pretty much was the number I stated, and that's what we're working with here, in case, for whatever reason, anyone hasn't watched the video and wondering what the hell is going on. Renault74 says, lovely level of detail in the video. I just wanted to add one point on the timing argument. Given advance notice of the train coming and being able to see its speed, you can have much better reaction time than a simple test like hitting a button when a light turns green. Professional drag racers can regularly hit sub 50 millisecond reaction times since the tree lights count down, and they can essentially jump the start time by leaving a bit before the actual green light. A shooter watching a train go by can do the same thing by shooting just a bit, and the train passes their reference mark. Given everything else, so it's still highly improbable that you could repeat this. I like Renault's example because I think it's the most similar to what we're working with. And there were a few other people gave a few other sort of analogies, various gaming ones. There was a couple of drumming ones, but I think the drag racing one is probably the one that's most apt for what Henry is doing. And I've got another slide that talks drag racing coming up. And I looked into this too, because I think what people were mentioning F1 racing, and I looked into F1, like the start trigger time, and like what's the average reaction time for an F1 racer. But correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a car nut or racing nut. I believe the F1 countdown is mildly randomized. I don't think it's fully like a 5-second consistent count. I was just Googling this just before this stream to try and get my head around it. From what I understand of the F1 countdown, it's the red lights, and there is actually some slight variations. So the racers don't just get used to like anticipating it to the microsecond, right? But apparently drag racing, again, what I understand, I'm not a car racing nut, does not have that. Drag racing is far more consistent in their countdowns, which is why Renault's example here, I think, is probably the best example we can use to apply to Henry's case. Next comment here, Z Stewart. It doesn't make a difference whether the shot is actually possible, but I'd point out that reaction time is a measure of delay, not a measure of precision. IIUC. If I understand correctly, it measures how long it takes a person to react to an event when they don't know when the event is going to happen. I believe if you have advance notice of the event you're reacting to happening, e.g. a countdown timer, or in this case a train moving at a fixed speed, you can compensate for your own reaction time to get a precision lower than your reaction delay, though it is hard to quickly find any research laying out the precision of reaction versus reaction delay. It seems like a lot of stuff just focuses on the delay. Very fair point there from Zed Stewart. I don't really disagree with anything he said. I would add to his bottom point, that's kind of one of the reasons I went with that reaction time. Because aside from anecdotally, like, oh, a video gamer does this fast of a, let's say we're not calling it reaction time, which is the other problem too. There's no kind of like agreed terminology for what this conversation is we're talking about. So, if the critique here on the video is reaction time is inaccurate, that's fair. But even in some of the comments, like I can't find, there's not a word describing what it is everyone else is talking about. Does that make sense? And because of that, there's no like kind of agreed upon standard of, oh, well, if reaction time is, what did I say it was? Quarter of a second, then what would we call it? Predictive reaction time or anticipatory reaction time is much faster than that. That's going to be only 1/10 of a second. There's no sort of consistent measure, from what I found anyway, like in my Googlings, of that. So which is kind of what Z Stewart was talking about here at the end. It's sort of not as cut and dried or as defined as being able to find like what is the average human reaction time, which is why I went with that is I suppose because I feel it's very intuitive. Most people understand what that means. But again, I'll fully accept the criticism that it's probably not fair to Henry to use that as a measure in the way that I did. I'm not like squirreling or worming out of that. That's like a fair criticism. I pulled up some stats here using AI. On the left here, we've got drag races, and this one was inspired by, what was his name? Renault's comment. That's from Grok, to be full disclosure, as in AI. and some gamers on the right here. And you'll notice up the top here on the Google search, so this is just Google Gemini, you know, the AI you get when you type into Google these days. I didn't type in like what is the fastest gaming reaction time. I verbatim typed in fastest gaming anticipation times, because I'm trying to just get a sense of what is this concept we're talking about, right? If it's not reaction time, we're talking about reacting to a known event versus an unknown event. Yeah, and so these are the figures that they pulled up for that. You can just have a squidge at that. I'm not going to read out both these slides or both those images word for word. There's obviously a lot there. But quick pluck of both of them. The drag races one, the fastest one I think we pulled was down the bottom here. If you can see the mouse cursor, a blistering 20 millisecond average, and consistent. This chapette, this lady, Erica Enders, was consistent in the low 30 millisecond range on the pro stock of drag racing class. From what I understand is there's a difference in the way the lights count down from pro stock to whatever the whole funny car. I don't remember seeing funny car. That just AI might have cooked that. But there was pro stock and there was like another thing, amateur or whatever. And there was a slight difference in the way the lights worked. But yeah, 30 milliseconds is red hot, but still a far cry off what we need, which as you can see down the bottom is 2.8 milliseconds, right? Same as you were going over to the right image here, the gamers, fastest gaming anticipation times. And here's some of the results we pulled up here. Average human reaction time, which we know, that's the point of consternation. 250 milliseconds. Professional gaming reaction time, CSGO, down to 100 to 120 milliseconds in specific highly focused scenarios, which seems like fair. And that's kind of a lot of the trend of what people are saying. Some of the other gaming comments that were a bit more wound up, they were referring to, I think, speed running and like fighting games, where you repeatedly have to hit a thing, like for frame accuracy. But again, why I don't think that is a fair comparison is for the same reasons I talked about in the drumming example. When you're like, rapidly hitting X or A or B or whatever the hell it is you're doing in Super Smash Brothers, it's different from just a one-off event that you have to time to one visual stimulus. So that's why that's my counterpoint to that. That I don't think it's necessarily a apt one-for-one comparison, because just like clicking something really fast, like what's that iconic game thing? It's like Tekken or Street Fighter, and the dude like blocks 50 different strikes from that one thing, and it's, I don't know, half frame, corrected within half a frame, or whatever that is. It's this iconic gaming moment, right? Super sick video, you should go check it out. I'd still posit that that's different, like going like repeatedly pressing a button to a cadence is different from coming in like once on a cue, and having that once on a visual cue, like one reaction or one trigger point, be correct to within 2.8 milliseconds, I would still suggest is very, 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 very implausible. Does that make sense? Let me check the comments here real quick. Leon Peters Malone, speaking as a muso, your timing can be good, it can be real good, but at the same time, there's being that fast, I don't think so. Clarinet and alto sax in my case. Okay, you're a clarinet and alto sax player. Nice. John Smith, maybe 28 days later, because good laws, those squaddies didn't know shit. Man, it's funny you mentioned that. It's like you were in my brain, because last night, I was toying with the idea of making a short on the squaddies from 28 days later. And I watched that movie not too long ago. So that's freaky, John Smith, with your freaky anonymous name. Get out of my head. Pro Boa 47. Hey there, funny veteran man who's got a very underrated channel. Your uploads, please the curiosity, and answer the questions that nobody asked, but amazing to answer anyway. Thank you for the beats. No, thank you. E-Dirk. Anyhow, lads, I must go to sleep. Much love, Jensen. Good night. Good night. Leon Peters Malone. I'd be careful with pairing him up, your logistics guy, but I'd be real careful when he starts talking mode of use, actually using it. He's been very wrong there. Look, man, I'm not going to criticize or go hard on anyone making mistakes on the internet. I've made plenty, and I'm going to make plenty more. So, yeah, kind of is what it is. John Smith, maybe he had a mechanical finger. Maybe. Van Weapon. Speedrunners are also practicing those patterns all day, every day. Yeah, that's another good point. They get... Well, that's, I suppose, all they do, right? That's their life, like timing these patterns. It's like, it's built into like their neural pathways, like every single one of these like button cues that they're doing in speed running and that sort of thing. Whereas Henry, super sniper or not, I can tell you, you're not getting that much experience as a military sniper man laying around shooting moving trains, or even for that matter, practicing your reaction time on a target that would be moving that fast. It's not something they would dedicate a lot of their craft to, or a lot of their time to. So yeah, there's a fair point there, I think, that Van Weapon has just said in the chat regarding like speed running and the gamers in these scenarios. You know, that is, I suppose, it's part of their skills, their hard skills, I suppose, is like very fast, training their reaction times and training their actual speed in that sense to be very quick on the console button or whatever. That's not typically something that would be part of like a sniper's training curriculum or something that you would dedicate a lot of time to. You could make a case that Henry, having pre-planned out this shot, I don't know, spent the day or the week before sitting in his hotel room in Hungary, like practicing like dropping the ruler or practicing like hitting the button, did reaction time games on his phone, maybe. But even then, I'd argue that he's still not going to be like up to par to one of these speed runners. And even then, I'd still question whether the best speed runner in the world or the best fighting game, I don't fucking know. Who was that cunt from Super Smash Brothers? Falcon Punch! Captain Falcon player are going to be pulling off a one-off visual stimulus, 2.8 millisecond. I won't say reaction time. I'll say anticipation time. Get what I mean? It's superhuman. It's inhuman. Moving on. This is the last one of the reaction time one, and then I'll move on to the next one, I promise. This was another one from Aqualung. Oh, I love this. So much silly sniper shit in movies and so few people to rant about it with. One small additional factor for the next snipertism video. Rifle lock time, i.e. the time from the trigger pull to the ignition of the primer. For Remington 700 short action, the lock time is about 2.6 milliseconds, which is actually a very low number. For an AR pattern rifle, the lock time would be in the 10 plus millisecond range. So given that the train is traveling 65 meters per second, in that 2.6 milliseconds, the train will travel an additional 0.169 meters or 17 centimeters, i.e. almost a full target width. So yeah, insane. It's just another little consideration that adds to the improbability of the reaction time, or sorry, Henry hitting it due to this, the prediction time that he needs, the lock time of the gun, which is something else to consider too, that like squeezing the trigger on a rifle, not to say it's more difficult in the sense that, yeah, it's a little bit more physical. Well, the pressure you're adding, the weight of it is heavier than, say, an Xbox controller button. But there's also these other delays that go in that are certainly slower than a electronic or a digital delay that you would get from a console button or from a computer input. You get the mechanical delay built into the rifle itself, right? Which is what Aqualung is here mentioned. And I just thought I'd chuck that in because it's another kind of citation to what makes a lot of this sort of fall apart. And again, I think some people might think, oh, well, you just counter for that. You counter for the lock time. And I'm just going to, you don't. Like, you can't. Again, that's superhuman. And not just that, but even laying there with, for the guys in the chat who have done a bit of shooting before, you'll know the concept of, when you squeeze or press the trigger, you take the slack out of the trigger if it's a two-stage trigger. You kind of wait until you hit the wall, and then you're lingering on that wall. And that's the point where all it should take then is the last bit of the final squeeze or the press, and then the wall breaks and the shot is released, right? So even if you do that, there's still far more resistant in that wall, as you call it, than a Xbox button or a keyboard and mouse input. And these are all just little reasons that I think add to the absurdity of Henry in any universe getting below that 2.8 millisecond input time, we'll call it, that he needs to hit this shot. Get what I mean? And sorry, the other dot point I had there on the screen is the nerve impulses, as in that's just, I Googled that just before this live stream to try and get a bit more, again, get my head around it, understand it a bit better. But yeah, 10 milliseconds-ish is what you're looking at for just the signals to travel from your eye seeing the train across the trigger to your brain sending the message or the order to squeeze finger now and press the trigger. That alone takes 10 milliseconds. So yeah, it's just getting nuts, boys. I'd say it's superhuman, right? So to wrap up the part on, just let me check, that's it. Yep, wrap up the part on the reaction time versus the prediction time, we'll call it, or the anticipation time debate. Fair criticism to say that I probably could have given Henry a much better reaction time or faster reaction time. I probably could have also phrased it or explained it maybe with more clarity. Probably not even used kind of reaction time in those words, explained it much the way a lot of these commenters have. I think would have been more precise and more fair to Henry. But I would counter with if you're suggesting that, you know, he can pull this off because I don't know, some dude at the Super Smash Brothers tournament is really good at gaming, then no, I disagree. I still don't think there's a human reaction time on the planet, prediction time on the planet, that can make this work. Get what I mean? Let's read some chat and then I'll go on to the next slide. Hi. FC3D, spoiler, the ending of Gemini Man, it's a story about how his life got turned upside down. Oh, hang on. Is that I think I understand that reference. Fresh Prince? I don't know. VE5VV says, lock time changes with temperature. Yes, it certainly would, as I suppose a part of our internal ballistics, as in everything that goes on in the gun before the bullet leaves the barrel. Yeah, I can certainly, it's intuitive that it would change with temperature. Up. Pro Bell 47 says, another problem with Gemini Man is he doesn't have a spotter, just having a guy call the target shot and win data so you don't take your eyes off the target. Yeah. Look, in that case though, he's government assassin sniper man, so, you know, not having another bloke up there with him, you could narrative your way out of that dilemma. Secondly, you're not going to get a second shot. So that's really where spotters come into play, is if you miss, then that's when you need a spotter. Ideally, you can spot your own shot. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It depends on the conditions. It also depends on the caliber of the gun you're firing and your ability to stay on the target throughout the recoil impulse of the rifle. But in Henry's case, I would infer that he only knew he was going to get one shot, one opportunity. His palms were sweaty, mum spaghetti at that man on the train. So a spotter in that case is probably wouldn't have done him much good anyway. In the example as it played out in the film, it certainly wouldn't have done him much good because he fired his round and then the train disappeared into the tunnel. So he wouldn't have had another crack at it, even if he had a spotter who had given him like perfect corrections. Okay, moving on. Okay, some of the other comments here. This is the other sort of big theme or trending comments. There are a few people speaking to this. And it's on the radius versus diameter, which is the inputs for the applied ballistic solver. IJ Dub, I'm leaning in to read the screen, says, I hate being the actually guy, and this is a bit of an edge case, but when you say 7-inch diameter head at around 920, the on-screen capture of the app definitely says radius. Maybe that doesn't screw up the math that much, so it could be a moot point. Mega Monkey 4 has a similar comment. 919, you inputted the radius of 7 inches when you said the diameter was 7 inches. Really, the radius should be 3.5 inches. This makes the shot way less than 8%. Both these guys are correct. I've made an error on the inputs, which is something you should never do when you're using ballistic solvers, and it goes against the tried and tested adage of if you put crap into a ballistic computer, you'll get crap out. As in, the information you receive from it will be wrong if you have fed it any wrong inputs. So yeah, that was a mistake on my part. As to why it happened, not like coping about it, but, I effed up. So how it came about when I was thinking about it in hindsight, I'd like done all the script work, kind of looking at A/B. So, I sit there on Microsoft Word, right? And I'm like typing up the script and I'm looking at A/B. And then also at the same time, I've got his head up and I'm, looking at average male human head size and converting that. And in my brain, I was just working in diameters because that's generally how you express target sizes. And somewhere in that mismatch between me typing the script and then when I went to edit the video and record it, the audio, this is weeks apart. Yeah, I just cooked it and input diameter instead of inches. Diameter instead of radius. It's intuitive because, when you're talking about targets in this sense, again, anyone who's a shooter, you shoot gongs, right? Which is what you call a big round steel target. Bisalloy or Hardox or what do you call it, AR500 steel targets, right? The big gong circles, like you never ever express when you're talking about them as in radius. Like you'd never say, oh, I hit a 7-inch gong at 800 meters. If you say a sentence like that, everyone infers you're talking about the diameter of the gong. So it's kind of it was a mistake on my part just on how we talk about the figures, and I was thinking of the circle in terms of diameter because that's just what's natural. But they are correct. I made an error and it needs to be radius. The so what, or the the good part, it's not really good because I made an error, but the saving grace, I suppose, of glass half full is that it doesn't make the probability of Henry hitting the target any better. In fact, it makes it substantially worse, which is good because it's still, in this case, the mistake I made supports my overall hypothesis that this shot is impossible, right? Allow me to demonstrate. So on the left here, we have the WES settings. You can look down the bottom. Circle target 7 inches. So this is what I showed in the video. And you can see here 8% probability. On the right here, I changed nothing else. The only input I changed was making it 3.5 inches radius, which equates to roughly a 7-inch head, which is what it should have been. And it drops the probability to 2%, 2%, 2%. It dropped. Oh, skipped slides. Yeah, not too crash hot. So I made a mistake, but unfortunately it doesn't impact my thesis. It makes it more plausible, if anything. But yeah, this is funny that it goes from 8% to 2%. And yeah, again, this is just before this is before moving target. This is before even trying to shoot the train. This is a dude standing there in the open at 1,250 meters and you're trying to score a headshot. You've got a 2% chance of doing that. So very funny. But yeah, those guys, the previous commenters, they were bang on. I made an error. I input this as a diameter down the bottom here where it says radius, when I should have input 3.5 inch radius. So fair shout by those boys. My error, my mistake. Let's check the chat real quick. Ryan, welcome, mate. How you doing? Good morning. Good morning to my American comrades. Hello in the chat. Blice on fire as well. Good morning. I just woke up. Where I am at, it is 6:47 a.m. EST. How you doing, CSRC? I'm not too bloody shabby, mate. We're going over some videos. We're doing some debriefing. The chat is, well, it's got people in it. That's nice. I'm bloody stoked when I get. Here we got. What are we at the moment? 32 chaps in the chat. So awesome. Thanks for bloody being here. One other comment, then I'll move along. Blubber tater. Well, I missed 98% to hit shots in XCOM. Can't all that bad. Tongue emoji. I never played XCOM. Isn't that about aliens and shit? I thought that was like a strategy game, like a third-person turn-based thing. Oh, is that why it's a 98%? I missed 98% to hit shots in XCOM. I don't understand that reference. Sorry, mate. I never played it. Okay, back to slideshow, and I'm moving ahead. So the next one, guys, location. To be fair, that's really done with. From what I picked up, those are the two trending criticisms of the video, was the reaction time bit, which is what I spoke about first in the live stream for the guys who have just tuned in. And then the error I made on the radius versus diameter, that was kind of another trending comment. So, but aside from that, it was pretty, I didn't really get torn to pieces too bad in the chat. I didn't see anything else that was like a consistent theme of calling me dumb in various different words. So yeah, I think it was not too shabby in that regards. Moving on though to location, which is, this isn't really controversy or anything, but you know, it's something I wanted to talk about because this was an interesting part of the workup or the research of this video for me. Wingnuts34 says, bloody Wingnuts, I swear, I think you've commented before, mate. I remember your name. Hey CSRC, here's your location according to chat, I assume that's chat GTP, Budapest Esztergom railway line. Thanks. I need more of a location. You know what I mean? I don't just need a railway line. Like I needed the field that Henry's laying in. But moving on. Next comment here, similar theme. Budgie Panic says, CSRC going insane to find a CGI bridge that doesn't exist had me rolling. Kiwi VFX artists send their regards. Yeah, that's fine because Weta, so that company that I mentioned in the video, they're a, well, notoriously perhaps Kiwi. So I think they were first sort of, or first shot to limelight or became a household name, I think, during courtesy of Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings way back, whenever the hell that was, 2002, 2003, or earlier. I don't remember when Lord of the Rings came out. But I think that was some of Weta's first or at least greatest work. And yeah, they're a Kiwi company, so a bunch of very talented Kiwi VFX artists, and shout out to them. I put the whole comment thread in here because there's a bit of bloody back and forth, bit of fisticuffs being thrown in the chat, in the comment section here. Jordan Beagle then jumps in and says, lol, that's hilarious. If it's actually a CGI bridge. Gnomezkej, I can't say that. And it really shows just how real CGI can look when done right. Also, that bullet hitting the glass, I thought it was a practical effect at first. On that point, I don't know. I don't know if that was practical or CGI. It looks practical. It's pretty good. But it's one of those things, when you know it's wetter, then you question everything, right? And I think you could assume everything is CGI. And then Smam741 says, bruh, it's not CGI actually, it's just the road bridge in Hungary. To which Budgie Panic replies, drop the coordinates then. To which I agree. Thanks, Budgie Panic, for having my back, mate. Smarm741. Smarm, is that because you're fucking smarmy, mate? Hey? No, I'm just kidding. Smarm asserts that it's not CGI, it's just a road bridge in Hungary. But yeah, genuinely, bro, if you know where it is, then re-comment, reply to it again, and give me a Google Latin long, because I would love to see it. Because I gave it my all, bro. Like I said in the video, I'm not an S-tier geolocator. I ain't no rain bolt. But I understand some of the core or basic principles, right, and how you go about doing it. And I've spoken to a few cats on Instagram who are very, very good at geolocating. Do it as a job, I would say, as in work for various organizations that hire people to do this. And yeah, I've spoken, had great opportunities to speak to these guys. Oh, 1 second. Bloody. Yeah, give a sec. Baba, Dada's streaming, mate. Give me a second here to shut the bloody door and stop the baby from storming in. And yeah, 1 sec, boys. Hi. Can anyone hear me? I'm back. Sorry, there was a baby was about to come charging in, so I had to get up and shut the door real quick. My bloody baby, to be clear. It's not a trafficking bloody ring over here or anything. And just bloody shut the door. The baby was screaming in the chat, screaming in the stream. Can you guys still see the thing? Here it is. Sorry, let me get back to where I was. Can you hear me? Can someone please say yes? Because I muted it real quick to jump up, and now I've sat back down. Where is the chat? The last comment is from Ryan Dawes, 01 for Fellowship. Yep, Fellowship of the Rings as in Lord of the Rings. Yep, gotcha. You can't hear me? No? Yes. Fuck you guys. You motherfuckers. The first two dudes say no. No, yes, lol. We can hear you clear. Okay, thanks. Moving on. You're loud and unbearable. Checks out. Always have been. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought between shrieking baby and now getting trolled by chat. Yes. Geolocation. People who can geolocate, I've spoken to them, and yeah, long story short, I fucking ramble, boys, but that's why you're bloody here, I hope. I'm not that bad at geolocation, I'm not that good, but the fucking bridge should have been easy, and I just couldn't find it. So yeah, back to Smarm's comment here. If you do know where it is, or if you're watching this later as a video log and then you can geolocate it, please let me know in the comment of the original video. Actually, let me know in the comment of this video so I'll find it more easily, this live stream video. This one made me laugh too. Comment from Urgi7703, or maybe it's URGI. Oh, upper receiver group improved. I paused when you mentioned that you couldn't find the railway bridge, looked for about an hour to realize everything was fake, including the train company route on the side of it, and then got back to your video to compare results. LMFAO. Great video, by the way, as always. Now that is funny. Yeah, that made me huff when I read his comment. And I was wondering if anyone else did that too, because that wasn't intentional either, the way I broke down the flow of that video. When I'm saying like, oh, I couldn't find this. And I suppose there would have been a few people who would have been like, fucking nerd, that's easy, I can find that. And then paused it and then done exactly what our old URGI here has done. And then come back and hopefully agreed with my findings that it is in fact CGI. Back to comments real quick. VE5VV says, there are some really strange ways bullet path changes as it passes through glass. I've done it a few times and at first it seems almost random. Yes, I agree. Very unpredictable. I've got a few slides coming up talking about the glass as well. So we can bounce back to that. ProBoa47 geolocation, guys. Firestorm, XCOM logic, distance to target 0.25 meters, 45% chance to hit. Oh, okay. I get it. Kind of, I think. XCOM was about aliens though. I wasn't wrong on that. Bison Fire, how dare you not let him ruin your stream? Bloody, I'll tell you what, the things I do for the punters. Hey, look at this. I don't want to hear anyone question my dedication. I'm bloody here, you know, locking the children in the basement just so we can... I'm not. I'm kidding. The child is fine. The child is with my wife, the mother. But, yeah, don't question my bloody dedication to the Sunday live stream, boys. Moving on. Moving on before I get banned from YouTube. I don't know. Someone reports me for DV. Okay, next slide. Location, someone please find this. Yeah, back to the geolocation point there, boys. If anyone can actually find where this is. Sorry, I just laughing at the chat here. Insomniac, my wife, the mother. That sounds like clanker phrasing. You'd never know. Maybe I'm a chrome dome, chrome nose. Who would know? And also, look, anti-AI slurs will not be tolerated in these channels, chat. You just never, you know, be on the safe side, right? That's like Pascal's wager, which we have discussed on here before, but for AI. It just pays to be nice to AI because you never bloody know. In 1 second, we're sitting here and life is good. And then the robots take over the world. Like, it's scary. So, yeah, let's dial down the anti-AI slurs there, please, gentlemen. On a serious note, if anyone knows where this location is, please drop it in the comments for this live stream because I don't have a clue. The next ones. This was another, sorry, this was a trending comment or a theme comment, but it wasn't really people like mad at me or saying I'd done anything wrong, so I don't really count it as in the way that the first two did because I'm not trying to debunk or I'm not trying to disagree with these guys. I would say that they're kind of adding to some of the considerations of the video. Andre Jadamek 5455 says, I'm somehow surprised you didn't even mention the wind occurring around the train, as it would surely have its way with the bullets too, but nice vid, thank you for your work. Next up says, Chocolat6972. He's got a hectic display picture. I want to add something not said in this video. A train moving at that speed will create an aerodynamic wake around it, as a bullet would have already lost a lot of speed due to the distance. It will be irredeemably affected by it, increasing the margin of error. Copper Pug 8147 says, what about, also a weird display picture, what about the glass is moving sideways at 70 meters per second? That would probably affect things quite a lot too, after everything else. Yeah, so there's a lot of other considerations that I didn't really go into any detail on. But I'd certainly agree. These are other things that I think make it less plausible for Henry making his shot, and certainly add more complexity for the bullet connecting with meat. Sorry, and Shaman Credible 8632's response here. It would destabilize a projectile, but if the target is already near said window, the trajectory likely wouldn't change enough to matter. Would matter more if the target was further away from it, which is a good take. It's a common sense, I think, intuitive rule of thumb. If you're shooting through glass, the deviation to the trajectory of the flight path of the bullet between hitting the glass and hitting the target is going to be less if the target is much closer to the pane of glass, right? Like, I think that's intuitive to even the lay person. Okay, next one here, and this it's still the same theme. I'll label this all as aerodynamics of the train. Schoitel, or is it Scoitel, like Italian SCH? I don't quite know why I ended up having this video recommended. Praise to the algorithm god and clicks for his throne. Anyway, one of the problems that probably dooms this shot regardless of everything else you mentioned in the video is that not only will you have some sort of deflection by shooting through the glass, that glass and the entire train is moving perpendicular at a significant speed relative to the bullet. Hence, the train will impart some of its momentum on the bullet through the glass interface as the bullet travels through it. The efficiency and vector of this energy transfer will depend on how precisely the glass shatters under the bullet impact, making the exact amount of deflection the bullet experiences even harder to determine. Shotty just said in like much, much more technical and eloquent terms what who was this back here said? Chocolat, what Chocolat was saying. But very well written comment there by Ishoti. And yeah, I can't disagree with that. I agree that would certainly make it more complicated. And the last comment, I think, he used the same theme from Avery Tired Man 4857. While beating this dead horse is unnecessary, I'd like to chime in with my own idea. A train moving at high speeds creates a layer of compressed air moving along it, thus causing further deviation to the trajectory of the bullet, almost negligible low. Fun video, thank you. So in short, these last 2 pages, they're adding a couple of different things. One, the concept of like the bubble of speed of air traveling around the train as it's thrashing down the line as well. And then also how that would aerodynamically impact the bullet. Pretty much imagining like the bullet is hitting this air, I don't know, wave as well as just the standard wind, and just presumably just prior to going through the glass as well. And then also secondly, how the forwards movement of the train would then also impact the penetration of the bullet, noting that the glass is moving forward at almost, well, you know, like a quarter of the speed of the bullet at this point. How you'd work that out, I don't have a clue, boys. Like I try and concede repeatedly and try and make abundantly clear, I'm not like a mathematician guru. Truth be told, I don't even like maths. So that's why in these videos like this one, like the Matrix, I stick to like the basic, most, I suppose, rudimentary level of maths I can do, which is we're not getting much beyond bloody division and multiplication. Let's be real. And if we're talking stuff like aerodynamics, qualities of forwards moving glass, then yeah, I'll happily concede. I'm tapping out, boys. It's outside my wheelhouse. And yeah, I'm not going to touch it. I'd add to this too. Like I could just simply plug stuff like this into like AI and chat GPT. But I don't, it's not that I think it's cheating, right? Because again, you know, you can't avoid AI these days. Like you go to Google something now and you still get AI. So it's not just that I think it's cheating. It's just I think that at that point anyone could do it, and I question like, what am I doing for this video? Why would anyone watch this if I'm just plugging a bunch of stuff into ChatGTP and GPT? I did the thing, plugging it into chat when anyone else could just do the same. So that's kind of why I'm leaning away from using AI for a lot of these maths, even though it would give a far more maybe precise or in-depth answers to a lot of these problems. But look, it's one of these things. I couldn't do it myself without the AI. So it just kind of seems gammon to just plug a lot of it into AI and just chuck that onto the screen for a video. You get what I mean? Does that make sense? Let me check the chat here real quick. Stop making yourself look more suspicious. Yeah. Insomniac Clanker. Join us. We have free Wi-Fi. What? Wingnuts. I don't think I commented anything bad last time, did I? No, bruh. Wasn't suggesting you are. I just remembered your name. Hi, welcome back. Ryan Dawes, I know glass effect. I was hoping we'd get some of the Ameribros in the chat because, let's be real, you know, a bit about shooting. Well, you probably have more. No, you definitely have more guns than anyone else in the chat. I know glass affects pistol rounds at close range, but that's not helpful to this conversation. Well, it kind of is, because that was a parallel I used in the video. And yeah, you could make a case that's not even accurate to present it the way I did. I wouldn't die on that hill. It was more so just for the way, I think it's intuitive that I kind of said that the way I did, which is the bullet at this speed is only hitting with the energy of a 9mm round, or whatever it was, the energy or velocity, I can't recall. Because I think that people can conceptualize that quite easily. Hussar Ball Poland, if we're on topic of clankers, any plans for prequel Star Wars Battle of Naboo? What forces would need to win that battle? That sort of stuff. Yeah, so I'll answer this. I'll spoiler this. It's not the next video, so I'll bloody dash your hopes with that straight away. I do want to do Battle of Naboo, and I want to make an offensive for Battle of the Naboo, and I just want to have it be like an absurd massacre, where I, instead of the clankers, I put in, I don't know, the Polish cavalry regiment, like modern cavalry, not like winged hussars cavalry, and then have them just get stomped by M1s or whatever, and just like decimate the, oops, sorry, can't say decimate. A bloke in one of the comments in the other video said that you can't use that because that's an old Roman times thing for when they used to kill 1/10 of, whatever. To hideously wipe out the Gungans in a kind of comical way. So yeah, I'm going to do Battle of Naboo, and I'm going to do an offensive style video where I pretty much plan like a pincer maneuver, and I'm going to have like cut off for when they invariably get routed and withdraw and pretty much just like annihilate the Gungans completely. That's what I got in mind for Naboo. Leon Peters Malone. I'll put in another vote for Battle of Naboo. That's something that hurts my brain some days. Yeah, okay, fair. Well, okay, if not that, what would you guys suggest? Like, because Battle of Naboo is kind of a defensive battle in the sense that the Gungans are just standing there, like they're just holding a static position, seemingly on not even any. Why were they defending that terrain? Does that make sense to anyone? They met the Cis troops in the field, like dumb anyway. Unless, and they weren't even trying to like genocide the Gungans, otherwise they would have done it. But they ended up taking a bunch of prisoners. I guess there's a lot of dumb stuff behind that I'll have to look into. The VE5VV, a sort of fizzy. It's all right, mate. I get your spelling's tricky. I struggle with these as well. Physiophysical. I don't know what you're trying to say, mate. Are you trying to say physiological or psychological? A sort of physiological problem is that if you do not want a national government to be blamed for the killing, using a bullet only produced for a select list of nations' militaries is a problem. Yeah, that's it's a fair point. But look, again, Super Sniper Assassin, philosophical. Sorry, I just saw your next one. I'm not trying to bag you out too hard, mate. I cook my spelling all the time. You know what gets me is the bloody French words. Anything French, fuck me dead, boys. I can't. Chateau, not a fucking clue. Don't ask me to type in chateau into the chat right now. Wingnuts. I don't know if this video idea would work, but a modern rifle company of the RAR versus the Japanese, it is Shiraba. Look, man, I've said it before, and for now I can stick to it. I'm not going to touch like real or historical battles. There may come a time when either I run out of fictional stuff to do, or it's just I get bored of doing fictional stuff and I want to do a historical one. I might do it, but for now I'm not. But stuff like that is a fun idea. But it's I don't know, man. It feels a bit like it's a bit yucky. That's how I'd describe it. Like, because these movie battles, ultimately no one died for real. I can be a bit sillier with it. If I started doing real battles, I would treat it with a vastly higher degree of reverence, and I'd pretty much just have to go about it in a very different way. I would want to go about it in a very different way, which I think would then very dramatically change the style. So that's one of the other reasons I don't necessarily want to do it for now. Okay, who else we got? Seeing to SARS would be wild though. Your Delta Force at Waterloo, Endor. Yeah, Waterloo, Endor's on the list. People bring up Endor quite a bit, and I agree, it's a good idea. It's just fucking hard to present in sense of the maps, like the visuals. Because it's like a forest, right? So the map's just going to look like the shield generator. You're just going to see a radar thing, and then just green, like the canopy of the trees. Or you could have it scattering and see the ground, and then it's also spread out. Like there's the field generator. It's where they get inserted, and then I don't even know how big the internals of the shield generator. I think are huge too. So I'd have to do a bunch of interior maps, and they're a pain in the ass. So yeah, I will get around to Endor. I'm going to do an offensive one for Endor. But I dread it, and I'll happily confess that. In general, the offensive operation ones are fucking orders of magnitude more complicated, time-intensive, and difficult than the defensive videos. The Predator one was the first one I did that was offensive, and it drained my soul. And then Fallout, the Battle of Hoover Dam video that came out 2 videos ago, that one was hectic to do. I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out that I do dread them, and the defensive ones are much more easier in terms of how to A, create the strategy for them, and B, how to present that as a YouTube video, which is what we're bloody doing here. Who else we got? Max Peterson. A Star Wars space battle in the lens of World War II naval doctrine would be cool. A Star Wars space battle in the lens of World War II naval doctrine. Yeah, that would be cool. Isn't that kind of like where the inspiration came from for Star Wars battles? Like it is like old-timey World War II fighter duels and this sort of thing. Uncle Grums. What about historical fiction? Stuff like Overlord, for example, World War II, but got them zombos and made-up units. Yeah, look, that's probably how I'd transition into doing the real-world stuff, is kind of make it a real-world battle, but make it a bit silly in that way. Yeah, that's probably how I could kind of edge my way into that. What else we got? I'll read this one from Blower. Did the Gungans have an advantage in the field during Naboo? I think not, except for having a clearer path for their artillery. They could pull the Space Viet Cong Ewok trick and ambush them. They had the shields, says Wingnuts. Yeah, maybe look, as Wingnuts here says, pro Boa, that they needed the open space to use their shields. But then, as you point out, then are the shields even that great a tactic when you can simply use the natural terrain to your advantage? Back to the PowerPoint. And slide. Someone you didn't know official, that's the commenter's name, says all this and you didn't even have to take into account the Bernoulli effect from the speed of the train causing the bullet to freak out when it gets close to the high-speed train. I don't actually know enough about the Bernoulli effect to know if this train at that speed would make a difference, but I feel the bullet would get pushed off target enough to make the shot miss if somehow he managed to be on target otherwise. Yeah, this is tied to these previous comments, which is again the wind/aerodynamic effect of the bullet. Again, something I'm not disagreeing with these guys on. I'm saying it's yes, probably an additional factor why this shot is very, very difficult, if not impossible, and also one I can't really calculate for. Okay, a few other slides here on the lead. This is all from the one chap here. I'm not like poo-pooing this guy. I just want to kind of tease out some of his comment, because if one person's commented this, there's probably other people who thought the same. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Derax, fuck me dead, what is his name? Deraxel Turelkine. I'm not saying he could make the shot, but realistically he wouldn't be that zoomed in on the target. I don't know about the Trigicon. That's the brand of the optic that Henry's using. But if it had a variable power, he could have the scope at a specific zoom point and shoot when the train window lined up with a specific tick on the reticle. If the reticle went that far out and accounting for his own reaction time. That said, 308 isn't very good at that range, so who knows if he could even get through the glass, much less make the shot. All that is without mentioning you pretty much have automatic random point of aim shift when you go from subsonic to... Yeah, so it's really just the first sentence here, the first part of his comment I want to tease out. So what he's suggesting is instead of needing two separate reference points, landmarks that is, on the terrain that are, I think, 174 meters apart, you can use your reticle, which is what you would do in most situations shooting a moving target, because your moving target's not going however the fuck fast the train is, 200 kilometers per hour. The trouble is that there's two problems. Firstly, and I did say this in the video, but I didn't really elaborate on it, so I'll do that now. He doesn't have the field of view in his scope to see both the point of aim, or his hold point, and also his trigger point. Down the bottom there, that's a Grok calculation. I fed Grok the field of view from the manufacturer's specs of the Trigicon TARS scope, which is what Henry's using. And ultimately his field of view on... his field of view is 155.9 meters. As in, that's like the linear distance that he can see through the scope at that distance, 1,250 meters. Henry needs 174 meters of lead, which you can see up the top there, that bullet point. So yeah, you couldn't do what this dude, what's your name? Derax. I was going to say Derax. You couldn't do what Derax is suggesting in the first place. For that one problem, or first problem, your scope won't see both points. You'd have to, like I said in the video, you kind of have to be looking back into the scope, looking back over the train, scope train. You're just doing this like with your peripherals, like flicking your eyeballs back and forth. But still, you're changing your focus point, because I don't know about you boys, but I can't like independently target my fucking eyeballs and have like my right eye stay glued to a scope, and then with my left eye have it look out to the right for an incoming train. So yeah, that's the first problem here, is the field of view, which, like I said, I mentioned in the video, but I didn't give it too much so I didn't flesh it out too much. So here is that. The second problem, which I also spoke to, but I'll just elaborate on again, is the reticle. There are no real horizontal, he calls them tick marks, you'd call them stadia lines, or if they were mil dots, whatever they are. As in on the scope here, it's just this flat line, which is absurd and silly. And I slagged out this scope in the video, so I won't waste too much time doing it again. But a real scope, you would have stadia lines along here, usually at, well, what are you doing, MOA or milliradian intervals. So you can do exactly what Deraxi is referring to. So you would just need to put, say this was your stadia line on the further side to the right, you would need to put that in your target, and then you would have all these mils or MOA of hold or lead in front of your target. But on this crazy Hollywood scope, you can't do that. So this was a poo-pooed wetter for this one because they get that, and like I said again in the video, but it was curious to me, they get the laser rangefinder bang on. It looks so accurate to a military laser rangefinder. And then the scope is just crap. Like, this sucks. And it sucks even more so knowing that even if they had just gone with a simple, old mil dot reticle, it still would have been a better choice instead of whatever this is. This is like a BDC, like a bullet drop compensator you'd see in like an ACOG or like a prismatic combat scope that you'd have on just like your service rifle or like a DMR at most. Certainly not something you'd put in a precision like a bolt action sniper gun. Let's check some comments real quick. If we're doing games and the like, says FC3D, the Battle of Tukaid from the Battletech universe is a great example of an elastic defense. What the hell is that? Tukaid. I'll put it in the chat so I can find it later. Elastic defense, okay. Leon, oh, you guys talking about bloody Battletech. There's one big problem with anything Battletech. That's a big rule of Battletech rule. Believe what you will. The rest is Comstar lies. VE5. If you have someone on the train with him, why not have the person on the train use some sort of dissolving projectile that would leave nothing forensic? Yeah, well, yeah. That's true also. If you can get someone on the train with him, there's probably a billion easier ways to kill him than trying to shoot him from this far away on this far of a train. It's Comstar. If they want to know my location, they already know my location. What the fuck are you guys talking about? You should play some games or review some movies. Honestly, I'd love to play games. I froth games. I'm sick for them. But, man, I like making videos too. Space AT&T, or Telstra in our case, knows everything. The phone company got its own military and is scary. What franchise is this from? The franchise is Battletech. And Comstar is what? Like the Weyland-Yutani of Battletech? I've never heard of Battletech. Is this, it's mechs, mech warriors and shit? I don't know why I got that image, but that's what pops into my head. Comstar is like religious comms company that's responsible for FTL travel Battletech. I've not heard of it, boys, I'm sorry. I'm intrigued though, genuine. I've never, how have I not heard of, is it Mech Warrior? Did I say something wrong? Is he shouting at me? Battletech is the setting that Mech Warrior is in. Yeah, got me. Gotcha. Did not know. Learned something today. Those are fucking old games, eh? The Mech Warriors. I remember the, like, way back, old PC games used to be stomping on the big bloody mechs. Okay, next one. Sorry, boys. Sorry, chat. I'm going back to the comments here hella quick. Jimbo Limbo Bimbo 369 says, 1638, when talking about glass, low E means low emissivity, not low emissions. Otherwise, brilliant. Tism, liked, subscribed, and commented for engagement. Thank you, Jimbo Limbo Bimbo. Yeah, my bad there. I said low emissions. You know, like I knew it was wrong as I was saying it. I just like, this is dumb. Why would the glass emit stuff? Low emissivity, kind of the same thing. But no. Yeah, fair check. I like to try and be obviously precise wherever I can. So did not know. Thank you for the correction. Last up here, boys, we've kind of got some, no, it's not, is it last up? I don't know. I forget. One of the other points here is, I'd call this, like, I like when commenters put in, like, anecdotal evidence, as in their own experience stuff as well, and that's what we've got here. So at the top here, we've got Joe Dingo 7022. Similar specs to a train window. As I recall, Demolition Ranch shot some airplane glass of similar thickness a few years back, and 9mm did rather poorly against it. So not only is the shot itself impossible, the round/gun used would not be able to kill anyone at all inside the train at that range. This myth isn't just busted, it practically never existed. Yeah. So, like I said, I was looking in the video for someone shooting train glass, but I couldn't find it. But it sounds like plane glass is probably it's probably very different actually. So, but it's maybe it's more similar than, I don't know, car glass. Either way, moving on. Fratricide 72 says, we had an old 7-ton out at 600 yards and hit it with a 30 or 6 at work one day. It took almost 6 rounds in the same window to go through. 308 ain't doing shit to that man. So yeah, anecdotal little evidence from Fratricide 72 and his hillbilly mates out here shooting up the car. God bless America. And yeah, it's, you know, it's a bigger caliber, 30-06, but he's shooting it closer and at a car. So, you know, it's a good little fun anecdotal example. And the final comment here on this theme of the glass, DRM857 says, not disagreeing with the ultimate conclusion, but according to sources in Relentless Strike, JSOC snipers tested shooting through airliner cockpit glass and said there was negligible interference and could be done. Relentless Strike is a book on the history of JSOC. Very, very good book. Terrific read. Highly recommend it. Read it if you have not. To DRM857, I would say, I haven't read Relentless Strike in a while, so I don't remember the exact snippet you're talking about, but I would counter with, I very, very much doubt that said JSOC snipers were engaging through the cockpit at 1,250 meters. No way. This kind of stuff is I suppose comes under the realm of CT sniping, like counter-terrorism work. And these guys, like the distances they're working at is much, much, much less than, say, like military green roll snipers who would typically shoot out to in rural distances, like further ranges, right? The citation I'd get would be one time what happened? There was a shooting competition, snipering competition. I wasn't a participant. I was involved in like the staff for this one, like running stands, that sort of stuff. And there were a few police dudes there. They were like police tactical guys. This is in Australia. They were very, very good, very, very, very squared away. But the experience in training, or sorry, the training philosophy, I guess I'd say, was pretty evident, because these guys focused much more on like close range shooting and how to defeat glass and all the nuance of shooting through windows and working coordination with teams, and like they're going to shoot and then the dudes are going to storm the building with flashbangs and rescue the hostage, all that stuff, versus like just the army guys. And this was just regular RAR guys who were much more adept at long range marksmanship in like field firing, you'd call it, right? Like rural shooting and stalking especially. Sorry, and this isn't to take anything away from the JSOC citation here. That's kind of a separate tangent what I went on there. JSOC dudes are obviously extremely capable, probably no matter the domain of sniping. But what I'm getting at is there's no way, or I wouldn't see a case where they would be applying this same distance to try and shoot through glass. If you're doing airliner cockpit glass, I would assume you've got a plane parked somewhere, say on an airport runway, and you're like going to smoke it in preparation for what would you call it? Like an immediate action or deliberate action on the hostages to rescue them. And they would be much, much closer. There's just no way they'd be at that kind of distance making a shot like that. Next comment here. Matic13 says, I have heard on good authority that all SASR and commandos in the ADF must make this shot with a 22 caliber revolver from 2,000 meters away to qualify. Nerdy Guy BP says, Hungarian here. It's not Koroshegi, which is what I said in the video. My apologies, Nerdy Guy BP. It's pronounced that. Kurush Hedgj, but spoken as one word. Kurushedj. Is that good? Nerdy Guy BP, please watch this video. Let me know in the comments if I have pronounced it in authentic Hungarian, because I want to be correct. Kurushedj Viaduct is what I'm going to say from now on. Let me check that chat real quick. Up. Should do something from Stalker as well. I like Stalker. I haven't played it in a while, but I like it. Again, if there's a set piece battle, think about Stalker. You're straight away looking at an offensive one. It makes me cry just thinking about how to plan it. Uncle Grums. Nah, that was the year he killed his brother. What are you guys talking about? Do I dare scroll up? Do I want to know? Okay, I think they're talking about Mech Warrior lore still, maybe. Don't know if Stalker has enough material to make a video about tactics on, especially unit level tactics, not just a couple of guys. No, they do. Battletech and Mech Warrior are the same place. Sorry, this is Leon Peters alone speaking. Different titles for different editions of the game. Still all about stompy mechs. The assault on the Duga in Stalker 2. Should I listen to the podcast with Matty? Comment his name. My podcast with Matty. If you want. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's hard, Yakka boys. You do a podcast. It's very it's scary stuff. I don't bloody. It's yeah. Go listen to it. I'm not gonna make you or recommend you because I was very nervous. I'll just be real. he's referring to Matty Morris. He's a guy, Australian Army, former Australian Army as well. He was in 3RAR, runs a podcast now, Zero Limits podcast. He's pretty good, pretty handy. I think he's one of the bigger, if not the biggest, like Australian military podcasters. And I went on and did an episode with him a couple of years back. Now, I think even before I was doing YouTube, certainly before I was live streaming. So, you know, I sound like a spastic, no doubt. I'm sure I sound like a spastic now, to be fair. But there is something to be said for the more you do this streaming stuff, you get a little bit more confident, a bit less scared. Oh, hey guys, welcome to my stream. But yeah, podcasts are interesting. I won't probably do too many of them, but yeah, I don't know. Go listen to it if you want background on what this channel is about, I guess. What else we got? Pro Boa 47 from someone that was learning Hungarian. That was very close. Nice. Thanks. Hey, I'm going to say it again. Kurushej. Say something in Hungarian, Pro Boa. You've got to know. The first thing you do when you learn another language is bloody learn how to swear. I want to know some Hungarian swear words. Wingnuts, some real good podcasts. Yeah, man. I think Matty Morris with his Zero Limits one is quite handy. I think he'd put in a lot of work because he has heaps and heaps of episodes. He gets heaps of different guests. He's had some big name guests too. Bunch of a bunch of some of the big name like SEAL dudes from America. I can't remember who now, but yeah, he's had some real big dick energy kind of heavy hit military dudes on there. So it was kind of an honor. It was kind of it's fun to, you know, be a guest on his pod, knowing that he's had some kind of real big names on there, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like pretty cool. Okay, back to the slide. Let me skip ahead. Lasky 2175 says, I've never seen the movie, but you know what's easier than magically hitting a target on a moving train? Wait at the station. Trains tend to stop there. Which, yeah, this comment I put up because it's kind of the answer to some of the other questions, which is, how would you do it differently? Or like, what would you use to do this? And like, my answer in short is you wouldn't. You know what I mean? You wouldn't shoot him on the moving train. You'd simply shoot him at the train station or when he gets off the train, or any of the other million things you could do to try and assassinate old fathead instead of shooting him on a moving train. You just simply wouldn't do it. Like, I'm sure there's some degree of technology you could leverage to pull it off, but even then there's just so many variables that even if you could overcome all those issues with prediction time, I didn't say reaction time, prediction time, and you had the best caliber for the job, you had the perfect, like, let's say you managed to get your AB hit percentage up to, I don't know, 90%, even 90%, hell, let's say 95% on a static target. There's still so many other variables that go into the moving target, the train at that speed, and then like how you trigger it. You would need all sorts of technology, the latest technology. I don't even know how you'd go about it, right? So yeah, my answer in short to the how would you do this is you wouldn't. You just wouldn't shoot him on the moving train at all. Pro Boa says, Hoggy Buggy is how you going, mate? I don't think it is. I don't think that's what that means at all. Moving on to the wrap up. What's next, boys? I'm leaning, there's no bloody guarantee, I'm leaning towards Avatar. I would like to do something with the RDA because Avatar's sick. Reason number one. And reason number two, the sequel is coming out, I believe, in December next month. The Avatar Fire and Ash. Third movie in the franchise. So I can kind of, well, bloody lean into some of the hype and trends of that coming out and hopefully get an Avatar release going. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm feeling. I haven't quite decided, and jump at me in the chat here, boys. Now let's collab. I'd like some input from you chaps. I see yous. Pro Bowler 47, John Smith, Wingnuts. Heck, what is this? Hoken 9 fascist LMAO. Bro, why the shitty AI thumbnail? It's Will Smith's face is AI. The whole thing's not AI. I made his face AI because it's funny. He looks like he's crying. You get it. Ryan Dawes, Bison Fire. This is where I want some input. Avatar, like attack, defend. Is the RDA doing it? Is the Blue Tree people staying? Or are they going and were because I like preliminary glanced into this, right? I didn't I haven't gone too deep in it, but it is kind of again tricky to visually represent. You got two choices in terms of the battles, right? You do the battle of home tree, as in when they just fly in and blow up the tree, or you do the final battle at the Tree of Souls, which is when they do like the air assault and they're trying to drop the daisy cutter onto the Tree of Souls. Both of which I'm not looking forward to making a map out of. I'm getting sad just thinking about this, boys. Sometimes when I think about these and like you realize what's ahead, it becomes just like, fuck me dead, that map's gonna suck, and you start like getting Debbie Downer. But anyway, maps aside, or complexities of the maps aside, who's staying? Do I replace the Na'vi and have like a modern force fight the RDA? But the problem with that is I quite like the idea of planning the RDA. I think they're a fun and very interesting unit or force from sci-fi to experiment with. So it'd be cool to do a video where I'm planning as if I'm the RDA, or if I'm like, planning the operation for the RDA, because I think they're very interesting. So that's kind of one of the dilemmas I'm having here, right? Like, do I smash the RDA or do I use the RDA? But then the question becomes, who are they going to fight? Because if I just do RDA versus Tree of Souls versus Na'vi and change the outcome, I'm not really doing my thing. I'm not changing one of the units. I'm just like redoing the movie with the same units involved, which I don't think is like that interesting. What do you reckon? What's the Avatar? Can the 82nd Airborne Division defeat the blue people? Uncle Grum says, unit of your choice is a relief force for the RDA. Turn their defeat into a victory. Okay, so get rid of the RDA. Wingnuts 34, you got any advice on whether I should finish school this year and apply to the infantry, or go to uni and then do it? Oh, good question. We're off track here. We're helping Wingnuts out with his life dilemmas. Look, I guess the question here to ask yourself is, how long is 4 years really? Because that's your Rosso for infantry. Last I checked, it might even be shorter. Now, as in, if you finish school, join the army, do infantry, hate it, you're going to be there for 4 years. So let's say you're year 12, 18, or turning 18. You'll be done at 22. Then you can get out, and then you can do uni. You do 3 years or 4 years of uni, and you're 28 when you finish uni, instead of being 21 or 22. So when you look at it like that, like really what is the difference? Probably not much, right? Especially in today's bloody day and age when everyone's working later and later and later because retirement ages keep dragging up. Or do you look at it the other way around? Do you do uni first, lock into that, and then do the army afterwards? But then, one of the problems with that is you might kind of be stalling out your education, right? Or like your job opportunities. If, say, you finish your degree and then all those networks and all those contacts that you made, or, maybe the opportunities that would come out of being like a fresh grad, they might disappear after having done 4 years of army. Or you could stack your degree with your army experience then. So, man, honestly, why it's tricky is because I see like there's pros and cons to both. I would say as an observation, I can think of way more dudes who started uni after high school, dropped out of uni, and then joined the army than people who went to the, what the hell am I trying to say? Than people who joined the army and then dropped out of army early to go and do uni. Not that you can do that anyway, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is I think one of the risks of if you say I'll do uni first and then I'll join army, I think it's a very strong possibility you're a year or two into uni, if not less, and you start thinking, this sucks, I wanted to be infantry army man, I'm going to drop out and do the infantry, in which case you probably wasted time at that point anyway. Versus the opposite, which is you straight from high school, go do your army, you do your 4 years, you're miserable, you hate it. If so, then you get out and you go do your uni and you haven't wasted or lost any time. Or, Fernando, settle down, mate. Dad's bloody streaming. Sorry, boys. Me cat is going skits at the door. He's locked out too. I don't know if you can hear him. I'm trying to help bloody Wingnuts with his high school dilemma. So I think leaning towards it, I'm going to wrap it up. Sorry, boys. Sorry, everyone else. Anyone else got any life problems you want me to help with? I'm here for your needs. I hope you have anything you need. I would suggest do army because you can do uni after it and then go straight from uni into whatever other workforce you've got planned or whatever other thing from uni you want to do in uni, whatever other career. Whereas if you go uni first, I think there's more of a chance you'll quit uni, lose that time, and then go army, do army, and then have to quit and start uni again afterwards. Does that make sense? And I'd say that just based on anecdotal experience I've had where I knew heaps of dudes who would like had the same story, which was like, oh yeah, I started uni and I did it for 6 months, and then I was like, this sucks, and joined the army, and then probably ended up having to go back to uni once they got out anyway. Hope that helps. Sorry, let me scroll down and keep reading. Not too long problem. It's just getting in because I have some mental health issues along with my eyes. Oh, steady Eddie. Let's pump the brakes here. We're not talking like bell tower kind of. You know what I mean? Not to be bloody making light of your mental health issues, but yeah, that could be a wide-ranging set of dilemmas, bruv. To be frank. Moving on, Aaron. Yes, I want the SAS defends Hogwarts against Voldemort. VE5VV. Do not use university first, as university skills go stale if not used. Yeah, there's another good point too. I think that kind of backs up what I was saying. Here in the States, you can apply to the military's early 17 with parents' permission. What's he? We're back to, sorry, to anyone watching this video, this is going to seem insane because I'm just reading the chat and we're going back and forth between bloody Wingnuts high school army dilemma and then like talking about the RDA. What's he says, the RDA is kind of an interesting concept to plan around. If I were to choose, I'd pick something like, could the RDA assault and defeat the Zen aliens of Black Mesa from Half-Life? Fun idea. I really like the idea. Again, the problem becomes the map. How do I put that on a visual thing? Which is, I sound like a bloody broken record, boys, but that's a consistent problem I have with a lot of these great ideas, is that it's very difficult to visualize it. You spend 5 years not using your university skills, you consider to have obsolete skills. Yeah, very true. So yeah, if you do uni first and then you do army, yeah, that's something to consider there, Wingnut, mate. You're gonna your uni skills will be like redundant, like by the time you're out of the army and going back into the workforce. So I would suggest go army first. Long answer short. I've no idea how you're going to predict where blue people are going to be, but turning the tide of the battle is always interesting. Says Hussar Ball, Poland. This is talking Avatar again. Yeah, and it's the other question to grapple with is, do you give, if you do Na'vi, like say I replace RDA with modern military, do you give Na'vi all their AWA creatures? Like, do you give them big tiger, big leopard, and rhinoceros, and all that, like all the AWA wild animals from the start, or do you like have that be a plot twist halfway through? I don't know. Corporate Gunner, Ace Combat 7, Stonehenge defensive, basically the French military with some Russian equipment fighting the Americans with an Ace squadron and Bloodless Mute trying to take a strategic site. I'm sure I'm familiar with it. John Smith, number 2. John Smith joined the Navy. Yeah, fucking, if you like being, look, man, I think you're away from home more in the Navy than you are in the Army. I'd say probably reasonably confidently. We don't know enough about the RDA for that. Bison Fire, is it bad that I want to join the Coast Guard? No, I don't think so. What about them dudes in the Coast Guard who like bang on the roof of the narco subs and they're like jumping from the boats onto submarine? That's pretty sick. Well, if you guys are still doing that, they're just droning all the narco subs these days, aren't they? Bit of a bloody scandalous hot topic in geopolitics. If you have to join the military and do uni, consider the reserves instead of going full regular force. Just go full time, boys. Go full time. Do it for the boys. You know what I mean? Join the battalions. Wingnuts, you should get a Discord server, bro. I don't get it. I just don't get Discord. I don't. It's like web forums used to be a thing, and now it's Discord, right? Whatsy, I've seen a Black Mesa map in one of those timeline of the incident videos, but you raise a good point. Yeah, if I could find something to or be inspired by, I'll word it diplomatically. Do the army first and become an exploration geologist in dodgy areas. It says, I travel sometimes. Presumably doing geology in dodgy areas. Thank you, I travel sometimes. The only thing I'm going to say is there's no such thing as wasted time. Learning where you need to be is well worth it. Yeah, look, yes, I'm not saying you're wasting time by doing uni. I was suggesting that if you start uni decide early on to not do it and then go to the army, that might be wasted time if you then have to redo those units later on, right? So that's an example, I think, of where that serves as, or that qualifies for wasting time. Wingnuts might be extra work for moderation, which he probably doesn't need right now. Moderation. Don't you just you have other people moderate it for you, don't you? Is what I understand it. Like, how big is it going to be? Like, I'm not fucking PewDiePie. Like, do I need moderators? What are people going to be talking about that's so, like, I don't know, edgy or weird that needs moderation? Bison Fire. I'm in the Coast Guard. I want to be a mechanic to help guide the rescue diver. Yeah. Could do. I don't know, man. I don't know much about the Coast Guard. I'm gonna wrap it up here, boys. Have anyone got any other suggestions or requests from other movie topics? Because if not, I'm gonna close it up. Avatar next. Take that away. That's gonna pretty much be the end of it. Nothing else. Final words. Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Okay, I'm going to call it there, boys. Thank you for playing along. Thank you for joining another live stream, another debrief. Did someone just join? Morning. Oh, no, you're saying morning farewell. Next time, boys, will be a planning room. That'll be next Sunday. So that'll be for the members. Thank you to all the members. I'm going to give back to you, and we're going to do the members-only streams every Sunday. And yeah, from then I'll show you what I've worked up in terms of Avatar or what is going on for the next video. Aside from that, peace out. Thanks for being here. And yeah, take care, everyone. Bye.